Welcome to the Standing in the Gaps News Deep Dive, where we really get into a topic. And today we're going to deep dive into the political career and character of Keir Starmer,
All right.
the current Prime Minister of the UK.
Yes.
And we're going to figure out, is he a principled leader? Or is he more of a political maneuverer?
Master manipulator.
And we've got a stack of sources.
We do.
Articles, interviews, even some of his old legal cases.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We're going to try to figure it out together.
Yeah. Let's unpack this.
One of the first things that struck me
Yeah.
was how much his background seems to have shaped his political journey.
Right.
He didn't come from privilege, did he?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
His upbringing was far from the elite circles of British politics.
Right.
He was raised in a working class family in Surrey.
Okay.
His father was a toolmaker. His mother was an NHS nurse.
Oh, wow.
And the sources paint a picture of a family that really struggled financially. And his mother battled a chronic illness throughout his childhood.
Oh.
So it seems those early experiences instilled in him
Yeah.
a deep sense of empathy
Right.
and a really strong work ethic.
You could really see that reflected in his choice to pursue law,
Oh, absolutely.
and specifically human rights law.
Yeah.
He didn't go into corporate law or try to climb the ladder at a fancy firm.
Yeah.
He defended people on death row.
That's right.
He worked on police brutality cases.
Yeah.
He even advised on the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland.
I mean, that's
That's a pretty impressive resume,
really is.
even before we get to his political career.
Yeah, and it's interesting to consider how that legal background might inform his political style.
Oh, yeah.
The meticulousness, attention to detail, the ability to build a case
Right.
and argue a point persuasively.
Right.
These are all skills that could serve him well in the political arena.
For sure.
But as we'll see, the world of politics
Yeah.
often demands a different kind of maneuvering.
Absolutely. And that's what I find so intriguing about him.
Yeah.
You have this image of him as this very serious, almost lawyerly figure.
Buttoned up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But then you look at his political career
right.
and you see someone who's willing to shift positions, make compromises, adapt to the ever-changing political landscape.
It's true.
Yeah.
So it raises a key question that we're going to be exploring throughout this deep dive.
Okay.
Is Starmer truly driven by core principles?
Right.
Or is he ultimately a pragmatist, willing to do whatever it takes to win?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
You know, when I was reading about his early career, I kept thinking about his work on the Good Friday Agreement.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a high-stakes, high-pressure situation.
Absolutely.
He was right in the thick of it,
Yeah.
helping to navigate all those complexities
Right.
and find common ground between
Yeah.
parties that had been at odds for decades.
I mean, what's fascinating about that experience is that it required a very specific kind of leadership.
Yeah.
The ability to listen,
Yeah.
to empathize, to understand different perspectives,
Right.
and ultimately to find creative solutions that everyone could live with.
Right.
I mean, it's a skill set that could be incredibly valuable in today's polarized political climate.
Yeah.
But does he bring those same skills to bear as prime minister?
Yeah.
That's what we aim to discover.
For sure. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives like this.
Yes, please do.
And we love hearing your thoughts, so leave us a comment below.
Yes, love to hear from you.
Now, no deep dive into Keir Starmer would be complete without addressing his relationship with former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn.
Of course.
It's a complex and often contradictory dynamic.
Right.
On one hand, Starmer served in Corbyn's shadow cabinet,
Yeah.
seemingly aligning himself with the party's leftward shift.
Right.
But on the other hand, he was publicly critical of Corbyn on certain key issues,
Yeah.
most notably Brexit.
Brexit, of course. Right. And remember, this was a time when the Labour Party was deeply divided over Brexit. Corbyn himself was seen as somewhat ambivalent
Yeah.
on the issue,
Right.
which frustrated many Labour voters
Yeah.
who felt strongly one way or the other.
Totally.
Starmer, on the other hand, was a vocal supporter of remaining in the EU.
And that difference of opinion wasn't just about policy.
No.
It seemed to reflect a fundamental difference in political strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Corbyn was very much an ideologue,
Yeah.
sticking to his principles even when they proved unpopular.
Right.
Starmer, on the other hand, has always been more pragmatic,
Yeah.
more willing to compromise or shift positions in order to achieve his goals.
And this brings us back to that central question about Starmer's character.
Okay.
Is he driven by deep-seated convictions?
Right.
Or is he ultimately a political operator? Someone who's more concerned with winning than with ideology.
Okay, so
Right.
it's a question that has followed him throughout his career,
Definitely.
and it's one that becomes even more relevant now that he's prime minister.
Of course, because leading a country requires making tough choices, balancing competing interests,
Right.
and sometimes making compromises that might alienate parts of your base.
Absolutely. And we'll be doing it with a completely unbiased approach
Of course.
here at Standing in the Gaps News.
That's right.
We're not left, we're not right. We're just trying to help you connect the dots.
That's right.
But before we get into all that, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Do you believe in standing strong for what's right? Do you value faith, freedom, and biblical truth in today's ever-changing world? Then we've got something special for you. Welcome to the Standing in the Gaps merch store, the official store of the Standing in the Gaps podcast, where we explore the social, economic, and political issues of today through a biblical lens. Here's what we've got for you. T-shirts that help you make a bold statement everywhere you go. Whether you're standing up for truth or sparking conversations, our shirts reflect the spirit of standing in the gap. Need fuel for those long, thoughtful mornings or deep dive discussions? We've got premium coffee, roasted to perfection, along with sturdy mugs designed to hold that truth-fueled brew. Want to represent your values wherever life takes you? Grab one of our stylish hats to keep you covered, literally and figuratively. And don't miss our inspirational prints that you can frame and hang up at home or in your office. A daily reminder to stand firm in faith. But that's not all. From accessories to gifts, we've got a variety of items that let you stand out while standing strong for what you believe in. Every purchase supports the mission of Standing in the Gaps, helping us continue bringing you insightful content, meaningful conversations, and the courage to face the tough topics. So what are you waiting for? Visit Standing in the Gaps merch store today. Link is in the description. Grab some gear, enjoy some great coffee, and help us keep bridging the gap in today's world. Together, let's stand for truth. Together, let's stand in the gap.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the political career of Keir Starmer.
So to really get to the bottom of, is he a man of conviction or a pragmatist?
Right.
I think we need to look at some specific choices he's made.
Okay.
As leader of the Labour Party
Yeah.
and now prime minister,
Right.
he's often portrayed as someone who's moved the party back towards the center, away from the more left-wing policies
That's true.
associated with Jeremy Corbyn.
And it's been a deliberate strategy on his part. He's talked about the need to build a broad coalition and appeal to voters who might have been alienated by Corbyn's more radical agenda.
Right.
So he's focusing on issues like economic competence, national security, restoring trust in government, themes that tend to resonate with a wider range of voters.
But hasn't that shift also opened him up to criticism?
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a tension there.
Yeah.
His critics would argue that he's too focused on winning elections
Right.
and not enough on fighting for social justice or economic equality.
Yeah.
They point to his stance on issues like nationalization or taxation as evidence that he's moved away from traditional labor values.
So is he a sellout?
Right.
Or is he just being realistic about what it takes to win in modern British politics?
That's the question.
Yeah. It's interesting to look back at some of the sources from his time as shadow Brexit secretary.
Okay.
He was fiercely critical of the Conservative government's handling of Brexit, arguing that they were putting ideology ahead of the national interest.
And now as prime minister, he's the one having to make those tough decisions, weighing the needs of the country against the demands of his party.
Yeah, it's a classic dilemma for any political leader.
It really is.
One thing that strikes me about Starmer is that he's not afraid to change his mind.
Okay.
We see this in his evolving stance on Brexit.
Right.
He was initially a strong advocate for remaining in the EU.
Yeah.
But after the referendum, he shifted to a position of respecting the outcome of the vote and working to get the best possible deal for the UK.
So that adaptability can be seen as both a strength and a weakness.
Right.
On the one hand, it suggests that he's pragmatic,
Yeah.
willing to adjust his course when circumstances change.
Right.
On the other hand, it can leave voters wondering what he truly believes in.
Right. It goes back to that question of principle versus pragmatism.
Exactly.
Is he guided by a set of core values? Or is he more of a chameleon, adapting to whatever the situation demands?
I think it's probably a bit of both.
Okay.
You can see evidence of his deeply held beliefs in some of his speeches and writings, particularly on issues like social justice and human rights.
Right.
But at the same time, he's clearly a shrewd political operator who understands the art of compromise and the importance of building consensus.
It's fascinating to consider how his legal background might influence his approach to politics.
Right.
He's often described as being very analytical, very meticulous, almost like he's building a legal case when he's arguing for a particular policy.
Yeah, and that can be both a strength and a weakness.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it suggests that he's thoughtful and thorough.
Right.
He doesn't make decisions lightly.
Right.
But on the other hand, it can make him appear somewhat detached.
Okay.
Lacking the emotional connection that some voters crave in their leaders.
It's interesting to compare him to someone like Boris Johnson, who was known for his charisma and his ability to connect with voters on a gut level.
Right.
Even if his policies weren't always popular.
Right.
Starmer is a very different kind of leader.
Yeah, he is.
He's more cerebral.
Yes.
More focused on substance than style.
And that's a contrast that's played out in the media coverage of their respective premierships.
Okay.
Johnson was often portrayed as a flamboyant, even chaotic figure.
Yeah.
While Starmer is seen as more steady.
Right.
More predictable.
But predictability can sometimes be perceived as dullness, can it?
It can.
Yeah.
And that's one of the challenges Starmer faces.
Okay.
He needs to convince voters that competence and stability are qualities to be admired, not dismissed as boring.
It's a tough sell in today's political climate.
It is.
Where social media rewards outrage and spectacle.
Yeah, but Starmer seems determined to chart his own course.
Right.
He's not trying to be another Boris Johnson or Tony Blair.
Right.
He's trying to be Keir Starmer. And that means doing things his own way, even if it's not always the most exciting or flashy approach.
And that, I think, is what makes him such an intriguing figure.
Yeah.
He's a bit of an enigma. A man who defies easy categorization.
Right.
He's clearly ambitious.
Yeah.
But is that ambition driven by a desire for power?
Right.
Or a genuine desire to make a difference?
It's a question that only he can answer.
Yeah.
But as we continue to examine his record, his policies, and his leadership style, we might start to get a clearer sense of what truly motivates him.
We've talked a lot about Starmer's perceived strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
But what about his vision for the UK?
Okay.
What does he want to achieve as Prime Minister? What kind of legacy is he hoping to build?
That's a key question.
We've been really getting into Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, is he driven by principle or pragmatism? But now let's get into his vision for the UK.
Okay, so it's interesting because his vision doesn't come with flashy slogans or radical pronouncements.
Right.
Instead, it seems to be rooted in a sense of steady incremental progress.
Right.
He talks about building a fairer, more prosperous society, restoring trust in government.
Okay.
He's focused on issues like investing in public services, creating a more equitable economy, and tackling climate change.
So a vision that might not set hearts racing.
Right.
But resonates with a sense of practicality.
It does.
But some might argue that it lacks the bold, transformative ambition needed to address the UK's deep-seated challenges.
And that's a valid point. You know, his critics on the left argue that he's not pushing for radical enough change.
Right.
They want to see bolder policies on issues like wealth redistribution, nationalization of key industries, and a more aggressive approach to climate change.
On the other hand, his supporters would say his focus on pragmatism.
Right.
An incremental change is exactly what the UK needs after years of political turmoil and division.
I mean, they argue that he's the kind of leader who can bring people together, build consensus, and deliver results without resorting to grandstanding or divisive rhetoric.
It's a tricky balance to strike.
It is.
And ultimately, it's up to the British people to decide if his vision is ambitious enough or whether they crave something more radical.
What's clear is that Starmer is a product of his time.
Yeah.
A leader who's emerged in an era marked by political polarization, economic uncertainty, and a growing sense of disillusionment with the political establishment.
He's trying to navigate those choppy waters.
He is.
Appealing to a broad range of voters while staying true to his own beliefs.
Right.
It's a tightrope walk.
It is.
And it'll be fascinating to see how he manages it over the course of his premiership.
Definitely.
So remember, we want to hear what you think.
Yes.
Leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts on Keir Starmer and his vision for the UK.
And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the news.
And be sure to check out our GoFundMe.
Yes.
It's how we keep the lights on.
It is.
And how we're able to produce these deep dives.
That's right.
Thanks for tuning in to Standing in the Gap's News Deep Dive.
Thanks for being here.